here. Welcome back to another video. This is going to be the last video I'm uploading in this decade, which is quite wild because I did start my channel 10 years ago. It's just all very crazy. Anyways, 2019, as you probably guessed, is coming to an end, and this is my yearly recap video. I do one of these every single year. I essentially sit down and tell you guys what happened in my life this past year and what the year taught me. And also, I'm going to include some bonus things at the end of this video, like my favorite podcasts, favorite musicians, things like that, so stay tuned for that. I don't want this to go on too long. I want to jump right into it. We'll start with the major things that happened in my life this past year. I'm sure most of you don't really care. That's why this video is also partially just for me. Alright, let's get started. In January of 2019, I celebrated 2 years with my boyfriend Levi, and we were about to celebrate 3 years on January 1st, 2020. Another major thing that happened this year that definitely stands out to me as kind of a negative and a positive thing is in March, I was on my way to my friend Michael's house. He lives really close, and I was driving my little Hyundai Elantra when a teenager decided to make a U-turn in front of me out of nowhere, and he basically T-boned my car. Thankfully, I was okay and he was okay. My car ended up being totaled, the car I've had since I was 16 years old. But overall, I was just thankful to be okay and get out of it with no injuries, and I was thankful that the guy who hit me also was alright. And the reason that that was kind of an okay thing in the end is that it worked out, and I was able to get a new car, which I love very much, and I got a Mazda CX-5. In April this year, I turned 24 years old, and I'm obviously going to be 25 next, and that's really scary to me. I saw lots of beautiful sunsets this year, which may not seem like that big of a deal, but I love sunsets, and that's all thanks to my boyfriend living in a cool apartment on the 3rd floor with a balcony that literally looks out onto the sunset every night. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, so one of the coolest things that happened this year was that our hockey team won the Stanley Cup for the first time ever, so go Blues. That was definitely one of the most fun parts of this year, was getting to see the Blues win the Stanley Cup, but also go to the parade, and it was just a very, like, you know, St. Louis spirited-filled time of the year, and if you are from St. Louis, then you'll probably understand. So I didn't get to go to very many concerts this year. I believe I only went to go see Churches, and that was a great concert. But I did get to go to a lot of comedy shows because every month me and Levi and a few other friends go to this comedy show that happens locally, and that was like a highlight for me for sure. It allowed me to look forward to at least one Wednesday night every month that I got to have some laughs with my buddies. So in May of this year, I got to go to Houston, Texas with my dad and see my cousin Carly graduate nursing school. It was super fun, and also I was there to visit my Nana who lives there as well. That was a fun trip, and I think it was the first trip I took of this year. Another really fun thing that I remember doing this year was getting to go to 2 Cardinals games with Marlins Man. So if you don't know who Marlins Man is, essentially he's this public figure in the, I guess, sports world. He's known for wearing his Marlins baseball jersey to all baseball games, and he always sits right behind home plate. Really cool guy, and he knows my boyfriend and my boyfriend's sister, so he treated us to 2 Cardinals games here in St. Louis, and then we went to Chicago a few weeks after that in June, and he got us tickets to go see the Cubs versus the Cardinals. I vlogged that trip, and it was definitely the highlight of the beginning of my summer. So on June 12th, I was going to be celebrating my 2-year work anniversary at Pulse Fashion, and I came into work that day and I knew something had been up and there were changes coming. I just didn't know what. The whole thing is kind of ironic because I found out all these things on my 2-year work anniversary there, but essentially Pulse Fashion was being acquired, and thankfully in the process I kind of was acquired with the company. And through that, I experienced a really big change in my career. I said goodbye to the old company I worked for, and I said hello to the Pulse Boutique, and I get to work for them remotely now here in St. Louis and go to Iowa, where they're located, every month or so. I was super thankful for that change for many reasons, and it was just an awesome experience for me to learn and grow in my career. I think July was probably my favorite month of this entire year, just because I was transitioning from one job to another, and it was a really kind of exciting period of time. And then at the end of that transition, when I moved into my new office, I actually got a whole entire week off, and I spent that week in Destin, Florida with some of my closest friends. Then when I came back from Destin at the beginning of August, I got to go meet my new team in Iowa. And then in September, I went to my grandparents' lake house, and somehow we ended up taking home a stray cat we found, so my family has now accepted a new animal into our home. Now we have 2 cats, 2 dogs, and a rabbit. So as I look through the months of like October and November, really not much happened, but I will say I did actually thankfully pay off all of my student loans. I can say that I'm officially debt-free, and that's in no way me bragging. I just kind of want to put that out there and say, okay, Katie, pat yourself on the back, be proud of yourself. I feel like I'm not really ending this year with a ton of lessons learned, but I was able to write up a few, and I'm going to share those with you. I think I mentioned this in last year's video, but the thing that I continue to learn is that time flies by so quickly, so try not to dwell on things that happened in the past and just live in the now, because the now is the only time that really exists. The next lesson I learned this year is to put my phone down and give myself a break from social media more often, because my job is social media management. That's literally what I do for a living. And then obviously my side gig is YouTube, which is more social media stuff. I actually just spend so much time staring at my phone that my eyes hurt and my head hurts and my soul hurts a little bit too. So what I've learned this year is to try and give myself really good breaks after I get off work every day and take my phone and put it somewhere else and just step away from it. Another thing I learned is that sometimes it's good to go with your gut and stick things out if you feel like it's meant to be. So this has a lot to do with just personally things that happened with my job. I loved my job, you know, my previous job. Technically it's a previous job, and there were times when I did struggle with it and I wanted to quit. And I'm so glad that I trusted my gut and continued to do what I love, because I stayed there and everything worked out even better for me in the end. Another lesson I learned is pretty cliche, but it's that you need to be thankful for what you have, and this has a lot to do with the car accident I got in March. It was very scary when it happened. I was mostly just upset because my car ended up being totaled. I realized that was stupid of me because I could have really been hurt, or someone else could have really been hurt. So I'm just thankful that, you know, although I lost my first car, I didn't lose my life or anything. Another thing I learned this year is to stop spending money on things, material possessions, and start spending money on actual like memories and, you know, trips, weekend getaways, things like that. The next thing I learned is that it feels so good to get rid of things. I have way more clothes than I thought I did when I really took a look at everything I own. I did a closet clean out video a few months ago, and I also got rid of a ton of old makeup that I've been just hanging on to for all these years. So I learned that it's really good to just let things go. Another thing I learned is that it's okay to want to do absolutely nothing. This kind of just ties into like self-care and stuff like that. I have spent a lot of time this past year, you know, getting off of work and canceling plans with friends just to take a bath and go to bed. And those are some of the best nights, you know? I think this was a lesson I had in my 5 tips for surviving life after college video, but it's the last lesson I want to talk about, and it is to give yourself fun things to look forward to. I was actually just talking with a friend today about how when you're this age, you kind of feel like you're in a rut. You know, you're working a full-time job, and if you're not engaged and you don't have babies yet, but maybe you're dating someone, you're just kind of in an in-between stage, and it feels like you're stuck. I definitely feel that way sometimes, especially because I'm about to be 25 and I see people around me getting engaged, and even people that I've known already have babies. So what I mean by giving yourself things to look forward to is that I like to make sure I am planning, you know, weekend getaways, or even something as simple as dinner with a friend on a weeknight, to give myself things to look forward to each week and to keep things exciting for myself. And yeah, that's definitely something that has helped me get through this past year. Okay, now just a few goals for 2020. Not that you really care to hear them, but these are my goals. Number 1 is to work on my communication skills. Although I graduated with a communication studies degree, I find that in my personal life, I do kind of suck at being open and honest with people. Number 2, like I said, is to continue working on putting my phone down and taking time away from social media and screen time. My 3rd goal is to continue my weird hobby slash, I don't know, obsession with researching reptile care. So over the course of the past few months, I fell down the rabbit hole on YouTube of the pet tuber community, and also just learning about ball pythons, corn snakes, crested geckos, all kinds of cool reptiles. I don't know where this obsession came from, but I want to continue learning about caring for these types of animals in 2020 so that I can prepare myself to, when I move out of my parents' house, eventually someday, get myself a reptile. This is just such a random goal, but I'm weird, okay? Alright, now on to a few of my favorite things like podcasts and music to close this video out. I did a lot of listening to podcasts in the past year because I would travel to Iowa every month. Lots of listening to podcasts while I'm at work as well, kind of like as a background noise for myself. My Favorite Murder is definitely still my #1 favorite podcast. Crime Junkies is a new one I discovered this year. That's like one of the top true crime podcasts, so I'm glad I discovered it. I'm still obsessed with the Vlog Squad and David Dobrik, so I love his podcast with Jason Nash, which is Views. Heath and Zane also have a great new podcast, and I really like listening to that. And then, believe it or not, you're gonna probably hate me for this, but I listened to Logan Paul's podcast more than I thought I would this year. I discovered it, and it's kind of horrible sometimes, but also it entertains me. So I'll just, like I said, keep it on as background noise for myself instead of music to switch things up. My favorite artist that I listened to a lot of this past year are Radical Face, the 1975, their new stuff, Taylor Swift's Lover, Billie Eilish, Yoklore was a new band I discovered, along with Rex Orange County. Those are just a few of the things I have listed. There are probably more, but I don't want this video to be too long, like I said, so I hope you guys all enjoyed watching, and I really hope I included everything in this video that I wanted to. Sometimes I just kind of get lost in my head, so thank you guys for sticking with me for the past 10 years. This decade has been lovely, and it's all thanks to you. I cannot wait to see what 2020 has in store for us, and I hope you guys all have a happy new year. Thanks for watching.